get rolling. I got a lot to do, but I don't want to cut you guys short. So,
what were your takeaways from film? Did it help you learn anything new about Kansas State?
pretty close to what we thought. Offensive line played really good, covered guys up, did a good job of protecting him, moved them around some. The challenge for us now is to do it again, to stay where we are and improve. But we ran better against, in my opinion, the best rush defense team that we'd played up to this point, and we had quite a bit of success. And so the challenge is to stay focused and get their motor running and practice well and all the things that actually matter that could affect us this Saturday.
It's kind of a unique situation. You don't really rotate offensive linemen much, but Cole Birmingham and Brooks started. He had a really good block on the first touchdown, a couple of blocks. That seemed to work for both guys, rotating into the left guard.
So we've got some guys that are beat up a little bit, and we have to save some reps on them in games and practice and rotate them around a little bit. And at some point, as a coach, you would love to have 6 or 7 guys that you're rotating on your offensive line to save those guys. They're the one position that most people play throughout the game, and they could potentially get 70 to 75 snaps in a game, where you have defensive linemen that are rotating on them who are actually better athletes anyway. But we don't have that luxury, but we do have a few positions where guys have rolled in and helped us a little bit. And I think what we're doing now, we kind of start heading in the right direction offensively and what we're trying to get accomplished, and scheme-wise, concept-wise, and I think that's helping the offensive line.
Mike, is Allen your starter this week?
Yes. I mean, best as I know. I mean, I haven't talked to anybody about it, but I would venture to say yes.
Back to the line, Mike. When you're looking for more from the group, are you asking them to do what you're coaching them better, or are you changing your coaching at all in terms of concepts and schemes?
Well, we changed our concepts about 3 weeks ago. Not a lot, just small things. And then we're just trying to get better at those things and not asking them to do too much. But it's not a dramatic change, but there are a few changes we made about 3 weeks ago.
It just came down. Epps is the newcomer of the week in the Big 12. Obviously, what he did from 1 week Iowa State to this week K-State, the light clicked on. He was brilliant, it seemed like, on Friday night.
He played really well. The thing that he did that's getting everybody's attention is he finishes plays. So you'll see the young players that have a promising future at times be in the right spot, but if they don't finish a play, we don't talk about it as much. So either one of those balls, if he goes up and tries to intercept it and drops it or tips it away and he doesn't make a big play, it's not something that grabs as much attention. But he was able to finish those plays, which is a good sign. Most of the time, guys like that early in their career that have the ability to finish plays will do that throughout their career. And so we're excited about where he's at. He's got a long ways to go. There'll be a challenge for him every week because he's not experienced, and he'll see different things. You know, the challenge this week is all the triple option stuff and the counter options and all the different things that Kansas does that creates issues for defenses. This will be a new look for him. It'll be for all of them, but particularly the young players, 3, 8, 11, and 7 that are freshmen that are playing back there that are trying to learn new concepts each week.
Were you able to diagnose any of the problems from the red zone?
They kicked our ass. I mean, that was real simple. I mean, I'm being honest. Scheme-wise, maybe we could have adjusted a couple things, but we didn't get any movement. The offensive line played good in this game, but in that particular area, we didn't get any movement. So scheme-wise, we need to improve, but we just didn't get any push.
Is it harder than ever to score in the red zone? I mean, a lot of people are having
You know,
trouble.
I told you guys this a few years ago when Bob and I were out in Arizona drinking Diet Cokes and Sprites at the night in the evenings. And he said, I tell you what, in college football, it's tough to get that much. It's tough to get 1 yard. And I said, what are you talking about? He goes, it's hard for offenses to get 1 yard nowadays. And I said, there's some truth to that. And I went home. I came to work Saturday morning and then went home at 11 because I wanted to watch the games, and I normally don't get a chance to do that. So all I did was watch games all day Saturday. And how many games did you guys watch that we watched that teams couldn't get 1 yard? And that's kind of what you brought up were not necessarily the red zone. Red zone's 20 in. It's more goal line, which is 7 in, is where we struggled. But it's difficult now, but we have to find a way to do it because we can't win by attempting 6 field goals in a game. We're not going to be that fortunate much more. So we got to find a way to score touchdowns. But you're right. It's hard to get a yard or two, yes, unless you're Philadelphia Eagles.
You guys didn't have a lot of third and longs, it didn't seem like, offensively. Was that a point of emphasis? Was that what presented itself? It seemed like you guys were content maybe with short game passes that maybe set that up a little bit.
Well, it was better offensive line play and no negative yardage plays. So you can go back in the other games and just look at how many sacks we had. And some of those weren't on, well, I'm going to say, I think I was told about 45% of them were not even on third down. So now you're in 2nd and 17, or you get sacked on 2nd down. Even if you're in 2nd and 6, you get sacked. Now you're in 3rd and 12. So when the offensive line didn't give up sacks and negative yardage plays, we were able to stay on the chains, which made us a much more effective third down team in this game. You're exactly right. But we didn't have negative yardage plays.
Did you like the mix of pass and run with another week with Allen in that role of finding his rhythm? Did you feel like that was a good mix?
So we were able to rush the ball from the start of the game, which allowed us to throw the ball, which kept us balanced, which kept their safeties and corners playing games to try to support. Instead of the other games we were in, we couldn't do that, so they did one or the other. And I think this is most teams across the country. You have to stay balanced offensively now. Defenses have caught up to offensive football. And if you don't stay balanced, well, I can just speak for us. If we don't stay balanced, it's a tough night for us. And we stayed balanced, and that allowed us to do multiple things during the last game.
You touched on your bringing in more things into the offense Friday night. Did reverse and get a flea flicker at one point, double pass. Mm-hmm. Is that something you anticipate doing a little bit more of than you normally would with this group moving forward, or was that a one-time we needed tonight?
We've had it in, but we hadn't had a chance to do it. It's hard to – you don't want to do those plays when you're behind by 3 touchdowns or behind by 2 touchdowns because the defense is not set up for it. You have to stay on the change and have some balance to allow you to open up the Rolodex of things that you can do in a game. We just haven't been in that situation.
Is a coach more likely to go there if he needs something extra offensively, regardless of his base concepts?
I'm not. Tom Osborne once said that if you're struggling in an area you want to get better at, use the eraser side of your pencil and not the lead side. You got a better chance of getting better than you do making things up or reaching. So I go toward that in the fact that and that's what we've done on offense the last 3 or 4 weeks. We got rid of some stuff, and we went back to some basic stuff, and we lessened the different ways that we run the football and said, let's get good at 2 or 3 things and see if we can get downhill. Now, some of the things that you saw that we did against Kansas State, we've had for 6 weeks, all the way through August. We just haven't had a chance to get to them.
Mike, going into this season, when you envisioned what this team could be, was that what we saw Saturday or Friday night closer to what you thought was your upside?
I did tell you I didn't know because we had so many new players. And then I'm getting thrown a little bit of curveball. The Stribling deal set me back a little bit and kind of what I was envisioning for us offensively. Lyric Rawls set me back a little bit about what we were going to do defensive-wise. It's a big picture for me. I have to think about everything. Playing 4 freshmen in the secondary scares me, and that sets me back a little bit. But we played a smart football game, and our coaches had good plans, and our players understood the plans, and they executed them. We didn't do that earlier in the season. We played pretty good against Iowa State. We had good plans, I thought, but we didn't execute them. We dropped coverage a couple times. Did a couple things in the throwing game at Iowa State that hurt us. We played better in this last game. So are we capable of it? Yes, if that's what you're asking. We're capable of doing it. Coaches have to do a good job of coaching and be accountable for the results you get on Saturdays. And then they have to get the players to execute that somehow during practice during the week. And it's really that simple. It's a complicated system that's not very complicated if you just understand that side of it. good coaches don't ask players to do too much. They get good at things they can accomplish. Like, we're not trying to accomplish what we did when Mason was here and Aitman was here and all those guys, because that's not who we are. We're not Jim Knowles' defense from 3 years ago when we had all those pass rushers. So we have to find out who we are and what can we get accomplished, not what can we draw on a board. And I think we're moving in that direction better. Now, the question is from you guys is, why are you wait till the 5th game of the season? Well, we didn't. We just were feeling our way through, and we're doing a better job now, and I think the players are buying in more to the certain concepts we're trying to get accomplished.
Is it easier to up the buy-in when you go out and have success and they see that, yes, what you're teaching us is working?
Yes, in most cases. But I did share this with you 2 weeks ago and last week, and I told the team this. I don't give a damn if we lost a game, and if you want to pout about it, then don't come to practice. Just stay home or go in the portal. I don't care. I only want guys that want to practice and compete and not feel sorry for themselves. And they responded. They bought into that. And so that helps, but when you do play well, it's easier to coach them harder. But we chose to coach them hard after we lost the games versus going the other way, because I don't see any results with young people in society today. If you're going to be soft on them, then they're just going to get even more soft than they already are. That's just my opinion.
You guys had struggled to force turnovers in those opening games. What did you do Friday night to kind of create those turnovers there?
We didn't have negative yardage plays, and so we're able to stay balanced, so we're not in, for lack of a better term, desperation throwing passing game or throwing mode where you potentially get sacked. And then you get into more negative yardage plays. Then the quarterback starts moving faster and then starts doing this and lets go of the ball, and that's when you throw interceptions, and that's when you get turnovers.
Your defense forced some turnovers.
I don't know. They just all of a sudden created confusion. And in the third and fourth quarter, we put pressure on their quarterback, and he was getting rid of the ball quicker than I think he wanted to, and was in an uncomfortable situation. From where he's been earlier in the year up to that point, he hasn't thrown under pressure much. They were ahead in their games. They had good protection, and they controlled the defense even in the Missouri game. And this was the first game that he had been under pressure and in a different situation, trying to come from behind and throw passes when he had to under pressure, and that forced turnovers. It's the same opposite of what Jenny just asked me, same thing. We haven't been very good in those situations because we've been under pressure and under duress, and we're behind in the game. That's what happened to them on Friday night, in my opinion.
Do you think some of it, too, might be getting more comfortable in this defense and understanding it a little better?
Some, but they still got a ways to go. I'll go back to what I said from day one. It took us 2 years to get comfortable with Coach Knowles' defense, right, wrong, or indifferent. I don't foresee that happening with this defense, but we're still not there yet. For me to come up here and say that we don't study tape on the day after as a staff and see things we're not fitting right, we don't know where our help is, the back was out, the linebackers got to scrape to the back, the backside backers got to get the tile. The things that you do in this defense, we're a ways away from getting them polished, but we're better than we were 3 weeks ago.
You mentioned the schemes that they're going to see with Kansas this week, but the guys that bring those schemes to life are those two backs. I mean, Devin Neal and Daniel Highshaw. I'm not sure that they're not the best tandem of running backs in the country.
Well, they're both good. The third-team guy, if he's a third-team guy, they bring in on goal line, he's a problem. He's an issue, too. He pounds you straight ahead. They've got a good package. They're smart. They know what they're doing. Their coordinator's a traditional wishbone guy. And if you look at what they do with the different types of run plays they have are tied into triple option in the most part. They're doing it off of some pull plays. They've revolutionized it a little bit from pulling guards and pulling guard and tackles and still running option off the backside of that. So what they're doing is really, really good. They're good at it. It's a little different and unique. So it's a really tough preparation during the week to get prepared for what they do. And those backs, from what I see, have gained confidence in the ability in that style of play, and they like running the ball because they're running for 3 to 4 yards past the line of scrimmage and not getting touched. It's a pretty good deal.
Mike, you got a front row seat for what Lance Leopold's done at KU the last 3 years. You had a pretty good seat for what Bill Snyder did at K-State. 30-something years ago. Any similarities in what you've seen?
Yeah, there's some good similarities. Lance is a nice guy. I know him, but I don't know him. But I can watch tape, and to me, it looks like that he believes in these things, and this is what they do. They don't get out of their box. They stick with it, and they try to improve. He's had his coordinators with him for almost 20 years. He had him at, was it Whitewater? And then Buffalo, right? So, I mean, he's had those guys with him, so obviously this is what he wants to do. He doesn't have to vary from it much, so they speak the same language all the time. And they can minimize, I'm just outside, I don't know, they can minimize, and they don't waste a lot of time doing things. That's the same thing that Coach Snyder did, right? He ran a 4-3 defense. He played quarters defense, and then if you started moving the ball on them, they went to cover one and played man and blitzed you, and that was it. That's what they did, and he knew that's what you were going to get. They were good at kick return. They were good at punt return. They tried to steal from you a possession and win the special teams yards. And then offensively, he built it around who his quarterback was. They went empty sometimes, and then sometimes they ran triple option based on who their quarterback was. So the comparison here is the same. Their defense hasn't changed. They're doing the same thing. They're not real complicated, but they don't get out of place much. They understand where to fit, and they know their coverages. And then offensively, they're designing everything around quarterbacks who can run triple option, and that's the guys they're recruiting. That's what they're looking for. So the similarities are they stay in their box, in my opinion. They know what they want. They're not real complicated, which allows players to compete and play fast. And then every year they're recruiting a little bit better players.
Mike, what went into the decision to medically redshirt Justin Wright?
Medically redshirt who?
Justin Wright.
Because he's injured. Is that what you're asking me?
Yeah. Well, he came back, I think, against.
Yeah, but he's not. He doesn't feel comfortable, and he needs more rehab, and he's not comfortable, and it's, you can't put him out there. You know what I'm saying? If they don't feel comfortable, especially in a violent position like he's in. So he's just not comfortable and didn't feel right, didn't feel good practicing. So it could be a month or so before he does. So then he would burn a lot of games. So he just felt more comfortable in doing that.
And do you feel good about what you have at linebacker with Nick Martin?
Our guys are playing good. They're young. Nick Martin is, he had 17 tackles against last year's Big 12 champions, and they're a really physical team. So, for him to have 17 tackles against that team is really good. Benson's playing good. 22's coming in and making some plays and helping. 33's doing a little bit. But we would have loved to have 44 back out there and running around and giving us some plays, but it just didn't work out. You always want too deep, but we don't have too deep in experience. Like, Nick's playing pretty good, but you realize he's only played in, 6 games or something like that? He's still really young.
You talked about the running game for Kansas, but their quarterback situation's kind of up in the air about Jalen Daniels and his health. Is that a little more challenging to prepare for everything, not knowing who the quarterback might be?
We have to prepare for Bean, is his name, right? We have to prepare for him. I don't know what's going on with Jalen Daniels, but he's not been out there in a couple weeks, and I don't know that they change a lot when he's in there. They're going to do the same stuff, in my opinion. Now, he might bring a few things to the table differently, but we have to prepare for the guy that's been out there the last 3 weeks or whatever.
Coach, especially with your young defense, Kansas runs, it seemed like motion on every play, and not just a simple, 3 or 4 guys will switch positions before the snap. What challenge does that give for your defense, especially being so young?
Well, they present challenges for a variety of reasons, but this is the 3rd week we've seen this. Iowa State motions and shifts tight ends on every snap, and so does Kansas State. They all do the same thing. They're trying to create leverage and get confusion and not try to give you a beat on number so-and-so and where he's at and if they run the ball with him in this location and certain things, creating a lot of eye candy and distraction, which they're good at, which is good. So the good news is we've worked on that for the last 3 weeks. The challenge this week is all of that and then trying to match up triple option after they reset. That's the challenge we face this week.
In terms of motion on your side, it seemed like Brennan was on the move almost every snap that he was on the field. What does that do for you? And is that sort of a reaction to maybe thinking some opponents are keying on him a little more than maybe you expected?
Well, so he needs to touch the ball more, and we've talked about this. A detached offensive player from the box that's isolated out there, it's difficult to say you're just going to get the ball to him. So if we can make him a moving target and do some different things with him, that helps us incorporate his ability in the game. That's simple as that. That's what we're trying to get accomplished. Somehow get the ball to him 6 or 8 times a game. You just put him out there and set him there. They can set coverage to him. They can top over with a backer, a safety. They can do some things if they choose to.
So I know you guys track their on-field movement during the game. Was his as off the charts as it seemed like it might have been?
Meaning
Friday
what?
night, as far as how much he was actually running and with all the extra motion?
Let's see. Probably 20 of 70 or 75 plays, something like that.
Mike, I got a big picture question for you.
A what?
Big picture question for you. NIL has become such a big deal. You guys here 15, 20 years ago, you rebuilt facilities in a major, major way. Do you feel like your fan base and structure here has a chance to maybe do something similar with NIL, just in terms of something really big to move that forward for your program?
So NIL is a challenge every day for all of us because we're still learning. We're just getting IRS restrictions and what they can and can't, what they will and won't allow us to do from a donation standpoint on a 503. We think that's clarified, but it's still up for grabs. NCAA has yet to give determination on if you can allow an internal source to find ways to raise money and distribute it amongst student athletes. And they're trying to decide whether that's a gift or not. We all would like to have that gift in college. Not as many ramen noodles and peanut butter sandwiches. So it's a very complex system right now. We all hope that Washington, D.C. would have given us some direction on what they're going to do. We know that's not going to happen now. There's way too many things going on, and the election year is coming up. So we have to put all that aside. We have Pokes with a Purpose, as you know. They're a group of separate group that helps support and raise money and facilitate NIL, and they've been unbelievable for us in a lot of different ways because they're volunteering their time to do it. And what they're doing, to answer your question, is they're bringing in outside sources of the people that have been given money here for years and years and years and years for facilities and the baseball field and Karsten Creek's redoing its golf course. And so I think what our administration is doing, tied in with Pokes with a Purpose, is they're trying to find ways to get these people to come together and make sure we're not trying to squeeze blood from the same turnip all the time. And that's what's happening. So Oklahoma State has a number of people that we can get resources for these type of donations. But we don't have maybe the numbers that some other schools do. So we have to be very tedious in how we operate and make sure that we're doing it the right way. But the answer is yes. I was on a phone. I'm very seldom do I go through a day and not have a phone call about NIL. I just got finished with one about 15 minutes ago. And I'm doing just a little other than supporting it and wanting it, and then answering questions for the people that are trying to strategically make it better, because whether we like it or not, it's here to stay. Even when they regulate it, Jenny, it's not going to go away.
Are there situations now where you think it's important enough that, if let's say there's a building project on the horizon for something, that you would almost say,
Don't
put that on
build
the
it.
back?
Put the money in the bank.
Okay.
I'll save you the time to ask the question. Was I right?
Well, I was going to ask, is that
Put the money in the bank and spend it on NIL. It's just the future. And I'm not saying I agree with it. I only know the sign of the times.
You think it's that valuable to what your program is?
So players used to want to go somewhere for shiny new facilities and new uniforms and things like that. They still want to go somewhere where they win, but they also want the other stuff. So I'm going to hypothetically build a situation. If you brought in 50 of our players and said, we'll NIL you $50,000 to $60,000 a year cash, or we can build you a new weight room and a meeting room, which one do you want? They're going to take the 50, right? That's what kids do nowadays. They'll go lift in a.
Yeah, I know. That's what I would.
You know what I'm saying?
What an adult would do.
It's like what was the quarterback at A&M? Was a good player.
Manziel.
Yeah, Manziel. Like I watched that show on him. Sign me up. I mean, sign me up for all that stuff. When I was 18, I'd have been on that plane too, right? So when you bring players in and you ask them, do you want $60,000 a year in cash, or do you want a new weight room or a new players' rounds or whatever? They're going to take the cash.
Well, because part of it, don't you think they understand that the possibilities of pro money, while they all want that, it's so slim.
100%.
Their earning potential is.
You're all over it. So there's a good percentage, Jenny, of players that are leaving schools, and I know for a fact we've had some here that have left to go take NIL money because they know they're not a player, not a pro player. So I can go play for somebody and get $150,000 or $200,000 for a year for 2 years, and I'm not good enough to play in the NFL, or I can stay at a school and get $30,000 or $40,000. So that's not a good business decision, and you can't blame them for doing it, but that's what's going on.
A couple of things might not be as important, but going back to the coach, Diet Coke and Sprites in the desert, I'm wondering if when you guys were out there for your meetings this year with Greg Burks, if there was any discussion about the change in pass interference, because one thing I've noticed in your games and in watching other games, they're letting them play in the back end. It's more liberal than it's ever been.
Yeah, that it's different. It's swaying its way a little bit toward like the SEC, where they don't really call penalties, which is fine. They do it the same for both sides. It's moved in that direction more in this conference this year, in my opinion. So if they're going to do it that way, that's fine. It just needs to be consistent across the board in that area.
And their secondary, Kansas, I mean, I'm not saying that the rest of their defense isn't good, but they got some guys that I call old-fashioned slobber knockers. That Kobe Bryant and Logan's been there forever. They got some hard hitters on the back end at KU.
Yeah, so they're similar to Kansas State because they play in a power run system that they go through spring and they go through August and compete against their offense. So if you don't start to bring a little bit of heat with you, you're going to get beat up. So you're just forced to learn to be physical based on their style of offensive play.
After
Justin. Good.
After the South Alabama and Iowa State games, y'all talked about how players were coming in, watching film, studying, being in the weight room, having that intensity to get back on the field and prepare for the next game. Did you see that same intensity of getting back to work and not letting the win kind of linger?
Well, it has to be. That's my message to them when I meet with them today. That and what I was just Barry asked the same question. The message has got to be, we have to do this again. This team that's coming in and playing is every bit as good as the team we just played. So that's their choice. I've been on the coach's ass since Sunday about they have to work harder and be more accountable to the team than ever, their position. And then we have to ask the team to do the same. There is no freebies during the season anymore. I don't think there's going to be freebies from now on with NIL and portal and the parity that's been created. This is the NFL now. This is, you could win by 30 one week and turn around and lose by 10 the next, and somebody asks why and you don't really know. Because it's NIL, it's portal, it's transferring. We've become the NFL. So every week is going to be vital. We used to go into games and think, well, if we just take care of business, by the middle of the third quarter, we'll be playing everybody on the roster and, everybody will just be kicking back, having a good time. Those days are history. Just look across the country. It's everywhere. Days are over. Because of transfer portal and NIL, and basically we're paying players to play this game. Attitudes are different, perceptions different, work ethics different. Do I protect my body? Do I redshirt and then try to transfer in portal for more money? Do I finish out the year? There's a lot of things going on that create distractions for young people now. And so it's just different than it's ever been.
With that said, Mike, this year in the Big 12, do you have any idea who's actually, there's a couple of teams at the top that look like they're really good, but everybody else, we don't know.
Yeah, it looks,
who or what they are.
I watched almost all the Oklahoma-Texas game, and I think those are really good teams. I think they're very talented. I think they understand what they're trying to get accomplished. That's just me watching one game. But then you scan across what's going on, not only the Big 12, but like just some of the games I saw, teams that I thought would win by a couple touchdowns, and they didn't. Or they hung on at the last second, home or away. I wouldn't know where you would start in this league. Those two teams are playing really good. I mean, we could talk about all the games. There's things that happened in the Big 12 this week that we wouldn't have predicted. So it's the way it is now. It's where it's teams. There's not much difference between anybody. The luxury of saying we're going to win. You're going to have multiple teams in your league win 10 games. Those days are gone. You're going to see a lot of teams winning 5, 6, and 7, just like in the NFL, based on what's happening. You'll have runs, like you'll have teams that have 3 or 4 NFL players on their team, and then they stay healthy. They can make a pretty good run, but as soon as they lose a couple, 3 of those guys, and if they get a couple injuries, they become a 6-win team. That's my guess in the future.
Did you watch that game as a fan, just interested in seeing a good college football game, or a coach? Oh, you
I have a Big Chief notebook and crayon every time I watch.
Crayon?
No, I was joking. I have a notepad and a pen, and it sits by my chair, and I have all my stuff around. And if I try to steal people's plays and make notes, and anything I see that's a good play, I write it down. Arizona ran a great play the other day against USC. Anybody stay up that late? So they had long yardage, and they spread everybody out, and they ran him down the field, and they took the back out, and they dumped it to him, and they took the center, and they cracked the mic on Mason Cobb, and ran him for however many yards? Smart football play. You see us do that. Lincoln did that forever. Bring the receiver all the way across the field and go block the linebacker, but it was a guy from out there. It wasn't in the backfield. Things like that. I write them down, take notes. There's a lot of smart coaches out there. Might as well steal their plays.
Weird. Was it weird to watch that game knowing I'm not playing Texas?
Mm-hmm.
That kind of strange.
And I used to have to take notes on both teams, but I didn't have to take notes on Texas. I only had to take notes on OU. And they do have one note. Their quarterback's a hell of a player. Did you all write that one down? That was the easy one.
All good.
All right.
Thanks, Mike.